You're listening to an encore presentation of The Game on Tide 99.1 and Tide991.com.
National College Football Analyst Pete Fiutak, I hope you're doing well. Welcome into The Game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
What's going on down there? How you doing?
Just counting down the days until college football.
Oh, do something else. Just go have fun, enjoy football, enjoy your life, and then college football season will be here as soon as you know it.
Yeah, but I can almost predict, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see you sitting around watching a lot of NBA playoff games. Am I right?
No, I get into other stuff. It's, you know what, you can only, I love college football, obviously, and it's what I do and all that, but yeah, of course, you have to get into other stuff too, because you have to enjoy the other times of the year and all the other sports as well. It leads up because it's going to be here, and then all of a sudden it's one big crush. But it's always a lot of fun, of course.
All right, a lot of topics around the Big 12 and the possibility of expanding or considering a conference championship game. As we look at that conversation, is this one of those topics that will go throughout the offseason? Because this could be that first step of super conferences.
Well, on a lower scale, there's a lot of different talk about expansion starting to ramp back up. The problem is, where are you going with it, and how's it going to help you? Because you're not going to talk to big boys like there were 5 years ago when there was the concern that maybe the Big 12 is going to even go away with discussion of maybe Oklahoma going to the SEC or Pac-12 and Texas going all over the place and teams going left and right. This is really more lower level. So you're talking Cincinnati, which, all right, does it really move the needle if you're the Big 12? Not really. You got the Mountain West, which is starting to look at programs like Wichita State, which might start football up again just so it can join the conference. Then there's other programs like Idaho and New Mexico State. Idaho's going down to the FCS. Eastern Michigan, UMass, trying to figure out if they still want to hang around. So a lot of lower-level stuff going on, but nothing that's really going to impact the larger picture of the world. Let
me ask you, is the Big Ten closing the gap on the SEC? Is the gap getting smaller and smaller on talent, coaches?
They did better in the first 3 rounds of the money rounds of the NFL draft this year, so in terms of talent, it certainly is. But the problem with the Big Ten is on the bottom level, you just don't have the same sort of talent teams. And, year after year after year, the SEC is always getting the top recruits. They're always they always destroy everyone else when it comes to the 4- and 5-star guys. It doesn't necessarily translate, and as we know, it doesn't always work out as according to plan. But, the Big Ten, in terms of just, being pretty good, yeah, it's right there, but it just doesn't have as many killer teams as the SEC does.
Have we ever seen a topic that is so overrated than satellite camps?
Oh, heck yeah. You Deflategate? You kidding me?
I mean college football. We could tie Deflategate back to Lane Kiffin, but nobody wants to talk about that. But
but the thing about satellite, I get it when it comes to satellite camps because it's actually a very positive way for these coaches and the players to kind of evaluate each other. And it is if you care about the recruiting world, this is about as above board as it gets. Especially now that we're talking, one of the big stories, next few months is all going to be about Laramie Tunsil, and that's going to open that side of things up. And is it right to for players to get money and all the other extra benefits? Well, this is one area in the whole slimy recruiting world that just isn't that. These are players across the country who want to be seen or try out for different teams or show what they can do, and these are coaching staffs who want to see other players, and sometimes this is your shot at it. So if you're a Jim Harbaugh and you're going into a Florida, or if you're crazy not to have a satellite camp in LA or some other spots, and these players aren't able to necessarily go to the on-campus thing, so this is their one shot. It's a pretty good thing overall, and it's going to be just fine.
But we're seeing, to me, this is where the money begins to separate the upper tier and the lower tier of the 129 teams, I think it is this year, of major college football. We've already seen Idaho jump back down to FCS, or will jump back down to FCS. Will that be a trend that continues?
I think you're going to start seeing that more and more. You're going to see people start to realize just how, like you said, the economics of it, just how hard it is to maintain a decent level program with the money involved. And I keep saying this. I mean, you don't need to have an athletic program and athletic department do have a great school. The two aren't necessarily tied in together, and they don't really, aren't mutually exclusive. But part of this whole thing is it's not just football. You have to pay for all the other non-revenue sports that nobody cares about. That's the problem. And I'm not going to get into the whole Title IX thing, because you do have to balance that out. But men's sports too that people don't go watch. You got to pay for those somehow. So if it was just about football, yeah, you can do that. But it's a lot cheaper to put together like a volleyball team or a golf team or a swimming team, than it is to put together a football program at a higher level.
We are talking to Pete Fiutak, CampusInsiders.com, and it's a great website. If you love college football, it's a great place to connect. College football news as well. You've got 5 coaches that are on the hot seat in the Southeastern Conference. You've got Kevin Sumlin, Mark Stoops, Gus Malzahn, Les Miles, Butch Jones, and Tennessee. How many of those will be fired next year?
If you go by what the SEC world is, forget those guys. Just take the SEC in general. You're going to have to assume that at least 3 or 4 of them aren't going to be there next year. And hot seat doesn't mean just being fired. It means the pressure is on that they got to produce now at a high level. Like Butch Jones isn't going to get fired unless they completely go into the tank. But now this is it. This is when Tennessee's supposed to win the East. And if they go 8-4, that's a bad year. That's pressure is on type of thing. So hot seat doesn't necessarily mean a guy's going to get canned. But look, coming into last year, like if obviously Steve Spurrier being gone is not that big a shocker. But Gary Pinkel not being around anymore, that's a little bit of a change of pace. There's some there's going to be some big time changes at some point because not everyone can win the SEC championship, and there's going to be a lot of ticked off fan bases out there that aren't going to get it done.
You've got the number one biggest SEC shoes to fill is Bo Scarborough trying to replace, or Damian Harris trying to replace Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's because you're replacing a Heisman winner. And, that's really, when you talk about Alabama might be taking a step back this year, that's sort of the area. And obviously Alabama gets the benefit of the doubt, and that defense is going to be as nasty as ever. But the offense doesn't, it's better than I do. The offense just doesn't seem like it quite has that next superstar up. It's like there's always the thought when Mark Ingram was doing what he was doing, oh yeah, but Trent Richardson's better. Derrick Henry was the one who you can kind of see from the start, this guy's something special. And it's not that Alabama doesn't have very good backs, but you don't have an Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and you got a few little changes, and all it's going to take is that one extra loss. And that's the difference between going to play for the SEC National Championship and being a Georgia type of team and just being, okay, you're in the SEC and very good and just sort of part of the puzzle.
All right, so let's go to this conversation. Pete, we were watching a little video clip, and we've already got the audio, and we're going to play it for the crowd as we travel throughout the afternoon. You've went out there on a very bold prediction. You say Alabama will not be in the college football playoffs this year, and I believe you said they'll lose 2 games.
Yeah, it's not that. And again, it's not that crazy if you think about it.
It is in Tuscaloosa. When you say losing 2 games and not being part of the college football playoffs, we got people calling funerals around here, man. I mean,
that's the problem.
You're depressing us in May.
I can't make it happen. I last year I was all over Alabama. I said from the start and was all in that saying Alabama was the best team who's going to win the national championship. I can't make the future happen. I can only see it. But look at the schedule. And again, that's what it is with so much turnover. Obviously, and you're not talking about falling off the map, going 7-5 and things just completely, stink it up. But look at this slate. I mean, I don't think they'll beat USC. It probably will be a problem. But, you got to go to LSU. You got to deal with Tennessee. All these other nasty games that are on the slate and going to Ole Miss. Again, I had the one lot. You have the one hiccup, and there's only been the one, undefeated, coast-to-coast year under Nick Saban. So there's going to be a loss somewhere. All you need is one extra bad moment, one extra game, one extra time when the team just doesn't pull it out of the fire. And going 10-2, this year it just doesn't get it done because you've got an LSU team that comes back with the most talent of anybody in the country. And you look at the other SEC teams out there. It's going to be a tough year.
What is the team that you're looking at that you're not buying the hype in the SEC that maybe will perform lower than the expectations?
I don't know if there's a lot of hype around them, but Florida is probably going to take a step back. I think the lack of offense is going to catch up to them. It just only because Georgia I do think is going to be a lot better. Tennessee, I will buy into that for right now just because it should happen finally, and eventually it's going to happen. South Carolina is going to be better. Missouri's going to be better. So you've got a better overall East, and Florida's offense, okay, really, you're going to start Luke Del Rio, a garbage can Oregon State guy at quarterback. That's all right, but it's not good enough, not in the SEC. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to have Florida, ranked high, but I think Georgia and Tennessee are probably going to be the ones that are going to be on everyone's list to win the SEC East.